Welcome to our Omid Yomi Shir, Omid Yomi, following the Seder of Dirshu. Shabbos Nunalef Omid Beis. We are in the last paragraph of Perek Ravi. Excited to finish 4 out of 24 prokim of Shabbos. Don't give up. We'll get there eventually. And we're learning every day very important concepts of Shabbos. So this is the end of the Metoimnin. The Gemara here has something very, very surprising to tell us lahalocha. Says the Heilige Gemara, this shir l'nishmas of Merim Nachem Akiva, Hatzlochas, everyone who's shiduchim, refuas kol hacholim, etc. Nun Aleph Amud Beis. We're in the second line. We're learning about Hatmana. So Hatmana, before we start the actual text of the Gemara, Hatmana means that Erev Shabbos, you're not allowed to be matmin any food or drinks that are hot. Can't be matmin them in something that would keep them warm, or that would, excuse me, you can't keep warm. You can Erev Shabbos, you can't be matmin anything but moisif evel, in a layer of something that would make it hotter and cook it more. And on Shabbos, you're not allowed to do that clearly, or even in Eina moisif evel, even in something that would just keep it warm, you're not allowed to be matmin on Shabbos itself, because you assume when you're matmin in order to keep warm, you assume it's warm. And then Shabbos is in, you're taking something that you believe is hot in order to keep it warm and keep its warmth as much as you can. For example, in blankets, people do that today. Not allowed to do that, lest you'll come to heat it up if you find it not hot enough to your taste. Says, I'm sorry, says the Heilige Gemara. This Gemara we've met actually at the beginning of the Perek. Now we are finishing off with the same Gemara. Menichin mecham al gabe mecham. One is allowed to place one mecham on top of the other, one kettle or whatever hot water urn, hot water kettle. You can place it at the top of another one. The kedera al gabe kedera. You may place one hot kedera usually contains food, one pot on top of the other. Mecham is also made out of copper, while kedera is usually made out of cheres. You're allowed to do that. Aval loy. Der al gabe mecham. You may not place keder al gabe mecham. Der al gabe mecham, the kedera which is from of the cheres, should not be placed on top of a mecham of nechoshes, because it looks as if you're warming it up, because one of them is more warmer than the other. I'm just saying it like that because most Rishonim delete the word avaloi, and they say no, you can do whatever you want. Keder al gabe mecham umecham al gabe kedera. And believe me, the Gemara is complicated enough without that girsa. So let's just stick to, you can do whatever you want. Place mecham and mecham, kedera al gabe kedera, etc. What's the chiddush? Now the question is, what? What are we talking about here? Friday? Shabbos? Warm? Hot? Cold? The Tmona? What's the story here? It's a very, very esoteric, strange Gemara. And I did a lot of research until I got to the Shulchan Aruch, and comes out here, la halacha, a very, very big surprise. But first, let's continue. Basically, what did we say? So far, we said something very simple. You may place a pot on top of another pot. Pot, food, whatever, does make a difference whether it's food or drinks. And also, it does make a difference of the material, even if one of them tends to be hotter than the other. Naturally, it's all okay, because it's not the accepted girsa. Now, and then it says, V'tach espia bebotze. If you prepared a strip of dough, not in order to make bread out of it, can't do that on Shabbos. You prepared some dough to be the sealant, to be like to seal the mouth of the pot. You may, if it's pre-prepared, you're allowed to basically smear the edge, the lid, right, of the pot with that botzek, and it's not a problem of bone. That's what the Rishonim say. It's not called building. It's not a problem of memareach, of smearing, because it's prepared before. I'm just placing the dough as it is. I'm not making it softer, harder. I'm just taking the dough prepared and just stick it, no problem. It's not going to stay there forever. It's not called building. It's not nothing. Or here comes the punchline. Oh, that placing one top on top of the other is not in order to make one hotter. The top one, I'm not trying to make the top one hot. I'm just trying to maintain the existing heat. Now, again, excuse me, what's going on here? Friday, Shabbos, what is it with that Tmona? It's not a Tmona, they're exposed. It's one kli on top of the other. So Tosfos gave us already the direction at the beginning of the parak, if you remember. And Tosfos starts us off, and that is I'd like to follow Tosfos and then the Shulchan Aruch. We're talking here on Shabbos, first of all. It's on Shabbos. Now, because Friday you can do whatever you want. Friday you can even put cold on top of hot, right? As long as it's Grufa Ktuma. Here you don't need Grufa Ktuma, by the way. If you put one top of one, that's halacha l'maisa. If you have a pot and you place something on top of a pot, you don't need Grufa Ktuma. Before Shalocha, there's a big primagodim about it. I learned it biyun once, yeah. So this is, yeah, so this is Friday. This is Shabbos. We have an issue of one hot pot on top of the other is allowed, right? A cold one on top of the hot one is not allowed. What's the chiddush? Says Tosfos. Of course, if the bottom pot is on the fire and the top one is cold, that's called cooking on Shabbos. What's the price to tell me? I'm not allowed to cook on Shabbos? I think it's my first day on Or Sameach. What? Excuse me. Yeah, we know that Kli Rishon on the fire is what? Kli Rishon on the fire cooks, right? And by the way, even off the fire, right? It cooks. Yes, it as long as it's out of leather. So put something cold on top, and underneath is really hot to make it in to be able to cook the top one. Of course, it's also. What's the chiddush? Says Tosfos, and this is very nogel aloha. So far is old news. What we said Tosfos at the beginning of the parak. I hope you remember. Says Tosfos, we're talking over here. Remember the story of the slave that put beginning of the parak. He put the little cold water container on top of the hot container in the corner there, and he rebuked him, the Amoira. Basically, what we're saying over here is as follows: on Shabbos, even if the Kli Rishon underneath one, the bottom one is hot, and it's off the fire. Let's say it's off the fire. You place something on top which is cold, and you know you're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. You've been through Jewish Hebrew day school. Elamai, you say I'm going to put it there until it gets a bit warm, and I'll quickly take it off. Halacha l'maisa, no. In other words, you're putting it in the place where potentially it can really get the atzoledes. You're telling yourself, I'm a big boy, I'm responsible, I'm a CEO of a huge company, and what I'm an accountant, and I'm a very responsible person, and I will take off the kli with the cold stuff before it gets the atzoledes. I just want it to get warm. Baby bottle. I want my baby bottle to be warm enough for the baby to drink, the materna, right? And I'll take it off before it gets the atzoledes. No, you're not allowed to. Why aren't you allowed to? Because you may forget it. You may not jump off the train on time. You may not take it off on time. You promise yourself, promise shmamis. We're dealing here with Hilchos Shabbos. It's not a joke. And that's halacha l'mais. I'm saying, ask a rabbi. I'm not teaching you halacha, but that is, Mishnah Berurah says it like many times. You can't put something on top of the even off the fire, as long as it may get to Yad Soledes. Don't promise yourself, I'll take it off early enough. Why? Because you may not. You may forget. So don't risk it. Don't take the risk. Yeah, don't go on the train that takes you to the bad place and say, I'm going to jump on time. That is the cold on top of this. Don't do that on Shabbos, right? Lo bishvil shichamu. Ela bishvil shiu meshumorim. Still have a question. What are you allowed to do? You're allowed to put the warm thing, right? You're allowed to put the warm thing where? On top of the mishumorim. I have something that's already warm enough, yeah, or hot enough. I'm putting it on top of the kli on Shabbos, so it should keep warm. It's already cooked. It's cooked. No problem, Bishul. I may leave it there forever. It's cooked already. I just want to keep it hot. I want my cholent, my soup, my kugel to stay hot. How do I do that? There's a Kli Rishon off the fire. I'll put it there on Shabbos. And here the question is, why not? What's the chiddush? That's not hatmono. I thought we're learning b'met toimnin. Here comes the real bomb. Here comes an unbelievable bomb. Here comes Shulchan Aruch, and when I read it, I was like, I don't remember seeing it. I guess I saw it many years ago. I was like, almost fainted. And that is as follows. Listen to this. It says the Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch Mishnah Berurah. We're talking over here that the bottom kli, the bottom one is not exposed. It's mutman. The bottom kli off the fire is covered with a blanket. And that bottom kli itself is what? Is really Yatzoledes. It's very hot. And it's contained where? In blankets. On Shabbos, now this is not called Moisif Hevel. Because it's off the fire, as hot as it is, there's no fire source. So slowly but surely it's cooling down. So how about, and this is the story here, I'm putting a small pot on top of the lower one, but inside the blanket on Shabbos. Now, usually on Shabbos, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm telling you Shulchan Aruch here and Mishnah Berurah. On Shabbos, I can't put something in blankets. Why? Because that's atmona, be'ena mosif evel, not allowed. Says the Mishnah Berurah, unbelievable chiddush. Because this is just tofel to the big atmana, it's allowed. Get that? In other words, I'm not taking a kli, burying it in the blankets. There's already a big kli buried in the blankets from before Shabbos, which is okay. I may now make a little opening and bring a little guest inside and top of the big kli under the blankets, but I'm matmin in ein mosif hevel because it's not the main atmana. I'm only adding something small to the existing atmana that's allowed. And that, after a lot of investigations, that's the best pshat here with the best chiddush. Unbelievable. In other words, it's a big chiddush on atmana. You can take a ride, a piggyback, jump on the bandwagon of existing atmana to add another a kli on top, even under the blankets. Of course, as long as it's not mosif hevel. If it was on the fire, of course it would be osir, because on the fire is mosif hevel. This is off the fire, and therefore it's eina mosif hevel. It could be very hot now, but it's dying down slowly. It's eina mosif hevel. Mosif means it goes on and on and on and on, with its own self energy. Because it's eina mosif hevel, usually it's also on Shabbos. Here it's mutar on Shabbos, eina mosif hevel, because I'm adding another little pot on top of the main one that I can add to the atmana on Shabbos. Unbelievable. I don't have a small or big, a new one that's coming on top of which is not as hot. I mean, it's warm, and I would keep it warm. That I can do. Yeah, a cold one, no, a non-cooked one, or let's say cold water. Because maybe it's going to get you out to lettuce. That's why not. I don't care about, but that's real problem with bishul. if let's say I take cold water, yeah, and I want to warm them up, yeah, and I say I'll just warm them up and I'll add them to that atmana. Of course, that's not allowed. Why? Because I may not take them off on time and they'll really cook. That's not sir. That's a toinen. Also cold kugel. No, cold kugel is fine. It's cooked already. Ain't bishul achar bishul. Toinen means toinen water, or toinen uncooked, whatever. Yeah, or those. Yeah. It's Mishnah Berurah. It's everything I said is Shulchan Mishnah Berurah. Weiter, unbelievable. Mamish. Weiter continues the Gemara. Ukeshem she'en toinen nesachamin, kach en toinen nesatzoinen. Just like you're not allowed to be matmin hot food or water, you're not allowed to be matmin the cold water. And we said yesterday, we're not talking about cold in order to heat it up. That's for sure, sir. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what? Yesterday we said matmin tzoinen. Either I would actually keep it cold. I'm covering it to protect it from the sun rays. Yes, that's Rashi. Or according to the Rambam, I'm putting something in a place that will never really heat. I just want to take the edge of the cold water. So Tanakama says you're not allowed to do that because that's not atmana, but atmana cold. Tomorrow you may come to do atmana on hot. It's a gzera, but Rebbe hitul atmin esatzoyden. Remember, Rebbe originally thought you're not allowed to, then he allowed. What did he allow? Because Rebbe heard that Rabbi Yossi said it's okay. So said what Rebbe said. I'm not arguing with my old Rabbi Yossi. The ein merazki, now a different halacha. Ice on Shabbos. That's halacha everybody knows. Are you allowed to smash ice on Shabbos? No. The ein merazki lois a sheleg v'lois a borod b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to crush. Not allowed to crush the snow or the borod, the hail on Shabbos. Yishvil shiazuvu meimav. If your objective is to make the water flow, you're crushing the ice because you want to crush the ice because you want cold water. Don't have patience to wait until the ice actually breaks. You're not allowed to do that. Why aren't you allowed to do that? Says Rashi, now comes the famous concept of moilid. It's not any of the 39. It looks as if you're creating something new, and therefore it's an Isser Darabanan of moilid. Moshe Feinstein says like a general Isser and Shabbos, it doesn't belong to any of the 39. No, you can't pigeonhole it to any of the 39. But you're creating water. There's ice, boom, here's water. That's a new creation. And because of that, Rabbanan said it's like a general, similar to the general concept of malacha, don't crush the ice on Shabbos, lo lerasek, because that is like you're creating water, and that's not allowed on Shabbos. Now, but we don't deal so much with snow and borod, but we deal with ice from the freezer. It's summer, right? However, what are you allowed to do? That's the halacha. You're allowed to put the what? The ice cubes into the glass of wine, says Rashi. The same goes for water or Coke or whatever you want. You may put your ice cubes into the drink, and that is okay. Why? Because it's nemach me'elav. It right away dissolves into the drink. You don't see anything real happening here that I have ice and now I have what? Now I have water. Yeah, I have ice and it melts into the water that's existing already. So you don't see it as an entity as of itself. It's right away as it's created, it's already assimilating, so to speak, into the water. And therefore that is allowed to do on Shabbos. To place ice in a separate plate, I think, is also an issue. You're not crushing, but I think the machmir, I'm not dealing with it right now. It's not a halacha shir, but if you have ice, it's always better to have the ice. You can bring the ice to the table, but put it in your glass. So it melts into the water. Hadron alach b'metoimnin. Mazel tov. We finished b'metoimnin. Let's hope we'll always be tomun in Torah. And now we are starting a fascinating parak called Behema, very picturesque parak. That's why I have the luach over here. So let's give an introduction to the perek. We all know that on Shabbos, in a place where there's no Eruv, what aren't you allowed to do? We know what you're not allowed to do. But imagine that also some things you're not allowed to wear on Shabbos. Even as a human being, we're going to talk about animals soon, but let's talk about human beings first. So human being, you're not allowed to wear on Shabbos something you don't need, right? Let's say something, I'm talking general now, just from general knowledge, but remember, you can't wear like a thick coat on a real hot day. I don't mean if it's part of your Chassidish garb. I'm saying you start wearing like a winter coat. I don't know, the rice of the Rabbanon, but something that doesn't serve you. The only clothes you're allowed to wear are clothes that serve the body. That's Agdor of the Mishnah Brura. They beautify the body, the tznius of the body, the appearance of the body. It's nice, it's beautiful. But if you wear something extra, 2 jackets, 2 hats, for an extra hat on Shabbos, you look like a clown. It doesn't help you. You're really carrying the hat on Shabbos. Maybe you're not chayiv because it's shinui. But Lamaisi, you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. Now, just like you cannot wear whatever you want on Shabbos, and by the way, there will be the next parak, B'mei Isha. B'mei Isha is going to talk about human beings' clothes on Shabbos. This parak is B'mei Behema. Imagine yourself, animals are not allowed to wear whatever they want on Shabbos. Why? Who cares what my animal does on Shabbos? So all the Rishonim bring down, the pasuk tells us that Leman Yanuach Shorcha V'Chamoircha, right? It says your animals have to rest on Shabbos. You have to make sure your animals don't do work on Shabbos. And if your animal wears something on Shabbos that does not serve the animal, something that doesn't help the animal, even if it looks like the animal is wearing it, but it's not really that garment, that animal garment doesn't help the animal in any shape or form. Therefore, that animal is really carrying it because it's not wearing. It's like me wearing 3 hats or a thick coat in the winter. It's not good for the animal. So the animal is carrying on Shabbos. Who cares the animal is carrying on Shabbos? Well, we do. It says, your animals are not supposed to work on Shabbos, and that's called work. Yes. Why is the animal allowed to eat on Shabbos even though it's pulling out weeds and grass from the ground? Because for the animal, that's hana. The animal says, I want to go on Shabbos and enjoy myself, go to the beach. I like to pull the grass. For the animal, that's a tainu. But if something is not enjoyable for the animal, right, and it's only work, in the eyes of halacha, the animal is not allowed to do that. Yeah, your animal is not allowed to plow for you on Shabbos, charisha, stuff like that. No, the animal has to rest. There's another Isser, we're not dealing with it right now. There is another Isser, which I will mention. Actually, Tosfos says there are 2 Isser on Shabbos regarding animals. One Isser is the animal to carry or do stuff on its own. That's Laman Yinuch Shocha V'Chamocha. There is another, let's read Tosfos inside. So the first Tosfos, the Odom Muzar al Shvisas Behemtoi. A person is warned to make sure that his animal rests on Shabbos. Dichtiv, Laman Yinuch Shocha V'Chamocha. Let the animal rest. There's a second lav in the Torah. Don't do work, you and your animal. Did you hear the words? You and the animal shouldn't work. Yeah, I'm not going to go further. Mechamer is a separate Easter. Mechamer is when the animal and the owner, the human being, are working together. He's plowing the field using the animal. That's a separate Easter. Both are Isurim that are mentioned in the Torah. One is the animal alone, and one is the animal together with the person. Pasha to Isurim. Now we're talking about animals working on Shabbos by wearing things they're not supposed to wear, things that don't help them. So now let's see the Mishnah. Bezos Hashem. Yeah, what kind of the first part of the Mishnah is about what the animal wears in its face. What kind of facial garments can the animal wear? What can't it wear? Yoitza toshus harabim. Yoitza gamal be'afsar. A gamal, a camel, may go out with afsar. Afsar is the regular muzzle, what he has in the mouth, I think, like a regular, middle of the road afsar, something that the animal, I think it has like in the mouth. The animal, the regular things that it has to hold its face. The naka is a female camel. It's a female camel, and we're talking here about a female animal, female camel that's particularly wild, and it needs higher shmira, the chotom. Let me explain. An animal is allowed to go on Shabbos with something that guards the animal. The animal needs it. I need to guard my animal. It shouldn't start running around, right? And therefore, I need my camel to wear an afsar, some kind of muzzle, in its mouth, some kind of bit, maybe it's called in English. That's normal for the camel to wear. If the camel wears something that's not protecting him, that's called carrying. Because if the animal is wearing something that's not strong enough for it, then it's not helping the animal because I can't guard the animal. So it's a piece of nothing that it's wearing. It's not serving any purpose for him. Therefore, Nako is a wilder animal. It's a white female camel, the Gemara is going to say, particularly wild. Avil dechaya, likes to run around. So she needs a higher kind of shmira, a chatam, a nose ring. She needs a strong nose ring with another ring. Like she needs to be tough with her. And if the Naka, the female camel, wears an afsar, which is less, it's called masui. Because the one less, which is not enough for her, is only masud. It's not helping her. So what is it doing? Doesn't help at all. Therefore, it's called carrying. It's melacha. The third one, I'm going to soon have them on the wall, on the whiteboard. The luvdekim bepumbia. Luvdekim is a donkey from Libya, a Libyan donkey. He is better than the camel. Yeah, he's a bit wilder than the camel, but he's not as wild as the behema, as the female. And purumbia. Purumbia is like a face thing. He has like a muzzle or some kind of protection over his face. That is, as we'll see later in the Gemara and Tosfos, it's between the afsa and the nezim. Let's write it down on the whiteboard. One second.